Morning, everybody. I'm super excited to welcome Vineet Sharma, Global Alliances and Ecosystems Lead for Data and AI at Cloudera. Vineet, welcome to our podcast today.
Thank you, Sugata. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Super excited. We have a lot to talk about, and you have an incredibly important and exciting role at Cloudera, driving this whole new age of AI. But before we get started, why don't you take a minute and kind of introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Thanks, Sugata. So my journey. So currently, I'm leading this all AI ecosystem. That's what we are building. That's what the company is focused on, and we see it as the next growth driver for our company. Cloudera, as many of you know, it's been around for almost 15 years or so. And it started as a Hadoop company, but the transformation over the years, and then it got merged with Hortonworks. And today, the exciting part is this is the only or one of the leading data management, data and AI platform which is hybrid. And in this age where they have their workloads, they have their data everywhere, this is very exciting time for a company like Cloudera to manage all that data, whether it's in the public cloud, whether it's on-prem, whether it's any of the environments. It can manage data, and it has an amazing capability of managing that data, the transformation journey, and leading the AI ecosystem with a focus on AI ecosystem now. I'm super excited. And as you know, there is no AI without data. And that's one thing people don't realize. It's really crap in, crap out kind of scenario. And that's where, for a trusted AI, you need trusted data. And that's what my company provides. And we are very, very excited about this.
So before we get into it, where things are at and where they're going, I want to take a couple of minutes, maybe a little longer, kind of dial back to your own journey, right? You had some incredible experiences at HP and Wandisco and Zoho. So let's dial back a little bit. Where do you think sort of the partner ecosystem or alliance ecosystem where maybe a couple of decades ago or even a decade ago, can you kind of reflect upon your own experience at HP and other places? Then we'll come back here.
Sure. In fact, let me go all the way back to my journey when I did my masters. So I did Masters of International Business in a place called Groningen in Holland, Netherlands. So when I did that degree, and then part of that degree, the last semester I spent at Sheffield. And in Sheffield, after the semester, got lucky with a job at KPMG Consulting. And that was the first time I worked in a KPMG strategy consulting team of KPMG. And we were looking at the different trends. And back then, it was dominated by, we saw that some of the bigger players back in high tech industry, they had like the power where companies were, partner ecosystem was kind of, partners were coming to them, but partner ecosystem back then wasn't such a strong thing as today. It's evolved over the years. So I've seen the evolution. That's where I'm going with this. So after KPMG Consulting, I worked for Fujitsu Siemens Computer back in the UK. So I was responsible for the EMEA and go-to-market strategy, direct and indirect. So again, the partner ecosystem we had a two-tier model back then. We were going through Arrow, Ingram Micro, and all those distribution partners, and then the second tier was all the other partners. But again, partnerships was not as they evolved today. Today, no company can survive without partners. On a typical deal today, there are maybe seven touches, seven layers of partners. Like Jay McPain. I'm a huge fan of Jay McPain. But it wasn't the case back in the day when I started my journey. Back in the day, high tech players like, so I worked for Fujitsu Siemens, and then I joined HP. HP was a dominant player. We used to dictate our terms to partners, and partners kind of were essential, but not as important. HP brand name really used to take the lead. So the situation has changed now. It's very, very different now with the partner ecosystem and the growing need of rather partner ecosystem.
Let's talk about that, the whole structure of two-tier distribution, because that evolved from the fact, in the beginning it was all hardware,
Yes.
and even the software was sold as a shrink wrap in a box. It was sold as if a hardware,
Yeah.
right? So everything was inventoried and stored at a distributor,
Yeah.
who shipped it to a reseller who then sold, right? Then came dropship, then came all of those things. And but talk to me a little bit about from an alliance perspective, because one thing is in the fulfillment channel, another one is on the alliance side. I mean, Intel Inside possibly was the biggest alliance play that we've ever seen in the history. But if you dial back in your sort of time at HP, what was the framework of alliances at that time?
Yeah, so no, great point. And in fact, HP, and back in the day when I was working for HP in Bracknell, it's a small place which is more like the EMEA headquarters of HP in Europe. So I was working for HP, and we had a two-tier system going through all the distribution partners and all the resellers. But back then, HP was declining in that market again because of the need for process, and that's one thing which really excites me about Zenfi is such a process oriented system. You kind of tell the people how to kind of organize the partner ecosystem more process oriented. And I give you the example of process of efficiency there. So back in the day when I joined HP was declining 9%. HP software in particular, we were declining 9% in the channel in the indirect business, while the market was growing 5-6% in the software arena. So we were pretty much like there was a 15% delta between where the market was growing versus where we were declining, rather, right? So we started tightening many processes. Many of these things are inbuilt in your Zenfi system today. Back then, we didn't have it. We had our own partner portal. Partner portal had many issues. It was a more like one directional system with very legacy. If I look at the system, the partner portal of back then when I was managing it, it was just very, and the process, I give you one example of people when they used to register deal versus closing a deal to the final payment. So partners, they used to close a deal, and sometimes it used to go in the black hole because we had outsourced team in Bucharest, Romania, and then we had few team members in Bangalore, some a few team members here and there. So there used to be 6 levels of signatures to before the payment used to go out to those people. And many times, partners they submitted their paperwork and they had absolutely no idea. It gone into a black box, and they had no idea when they will get paid. So one of the key things I did, first thing I fixed was we have to have a proper system. We have to have a proper system where partners have the visibility of where they are in the process in getting paid. And payment, as you know, many of these partners were small partners. Payment is absolutely important for them to get paid in time. So that's the first thing I fixed. I made it like pretty much whatever terms they had back then, 90 days or something, and but made it very transparent process. We in fact I am blinking out on the company's name. We took some help from an external company, which built a digitized portal for us, where partners were submitting their final deal registration to the final after they close the deal paperwork, and it used to be very transparent. Partners loved it. Then we, in the same process, we changed 11 different processes, including all the way from deal registration to MDF funding, how they will get funding for MDF and how they will submit the paperwork. All of them, we digitize all of that process, no manual work. I was talking about 6 levels of signatures for getting paid. We cut it down to 3 levels. We eliminated 3 levels because it was going all the way up to the VP level. In many cases, VP were traveling or they were here and there, and people used to wait for months sometimes for getting those signatures. Cut down all that bureaucracy, made it very transparent, very seamless, which on Zinfi portal looks very easy for me right now. But back then we didn't have it, those kind of great systems. So the result was within 15 months, we turned around that -9% to +10%. HP management was very happy with the whole transformation from -9 to +10% in 15 months. They gave me promotion, and that's how I came to the US. So I was moved to the California Cupertino office back in 2010 after such a successful stint on the partner ecosystem in Europe.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, it completely resonates. Even today, you would be surprised how many organizations are data rich but process poor, therefore action, deficient. Because in the end, a lot of those data are sitting in silo. We'll talk about that a little bit. But let's go back to this whole notion of, partners waiting for money. And speaking of Jim McBain, he talks about instead of just looking at a channel as a fulfillment channel, you look at it as a point of value add. So how partners gets rewarded today are very different, right? So they don't wait for a 7-step process to complete to get their commission check.
Yeah.
People are rewarding them all the way from lead gen, in co-marketing and co-sell, and actual fulfillment, and then co-keep. So talk to me a little bit about, like, maybe the recent 5 years or so.
Yeah.
What is the major trend you have seen that you think will accelerate when it comes to managing a complex and a hybrid ecosystem like what you have managed today?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, and the most important trend I've seen is you just can't survive without a partner ecosystem. Partner ecosystem is the key to your growth. That's plain and simple. Be it big companies like Microsoft or Salesforce or others, or smaller, nimble companies. If you look at the fastest growing companies today, they have figured out how to manage their partner, how to kind of grow with the partner, grow through the partner ecosystem, how to incentivize the partners. And like you said, data rich, process poor kind of approach doesn't work anymore. You have to have good processes in place. You have to be efficient in paying them. You have to be good efficient in kind of the, be it lead generation or passing them or deal registration process or any of those processes. You just can't be like the legacy. I would say the legacy type player which we used to have in the past. Back in the day, HP had 100,000 plus partners. You can't even think of those kind of partners. But then companies, they were doing all kinds of ROI analysis, and they got rid of many of those partners. But one thing today is the partner categories have also evolved. That's pretty much my number two thing. The kind of partners I used to see in early 2000 and late 2000s, this is totally different landscape. The partner ecosystem, the definition by definition, the types of partner ecosystem are totally different now. And we are dealing with many of those influencers and many of those different kind of partners that didn't exist before. So it's very, very exciting time. But having said that, coming back to your point of, it's becoming more and more important now, the need for figuring out your partner ecosystem strategy from day one, whether you are a new company or a old company. And one more point I would say is, because there are many companies which are kind of struggling right now. I think one of these companies are struggling, even the smaller or the medium sized, big sized companies are struggling because they haven't figured out their partner ecosystem. They are still going through their, and I know, I want to, without naming any companies, I've worked for some companies and I know those companies. They are struggling right now because they are still relying on old methods of partnering. They are still relying on old kind of processes of dealing with the partners. Things are evolving. They have to use new tools. They have to use new ways of partnering, and more importantly, they have to look at the partner ecosystem with the fresh eyes. They really have to kind of reevaluate everything.
So let's come to the current moment. So maybe you can take a minute to kind of talk about Cloudera. We're a Cloudera customer, but you will do a much better job kind of talking about Cloudera. But also tell us a little bit about the ecosystem of Cloudera, because it's a very diverse and rich ecosystem.
It
It's
is.
not just a fulfillment based engagement. I
Yeah.
think those two dimensions would be great for you to explain a bit.
Yeah, no, Cloudera is it's a great example, which I think is heavily dependent on the partner ecosystem. Partners are, the soul and blood of this company. In many ways, I tell you what happened was, in traditionally, as I said, it's about 15 years old company. So traditionally we had, and there was a period when it became the fastest company to grow to the $1 million mark back in the day. So fast growing company, but then Hadoop saw its own kind of challenges and ups and downs of any kind of verticals. But it was one of the pioneers of big data when it came in early 2000s. And company grew very fast, built a good ecosystem. But then came the second phase of Hadoop when it went down, and with that, partnerships also went down. Some of the big partners, like, without naming the partners, the big GSI partners who were really, they built their practices on Cloudera back then. They didn't see much revenue coming out when Hadoop market went down. So they kind of changed their strategies to new shiny toys, like, the likes of Snowflake and Databricks and others. That there were many new shiny toys, new companies which came and became very fast growing companies. And why I'm explaining in all detail, just I'm coming to the main point, how things change in this industry. And then came the cloud. The cloud, with cloud, all the new breed of companies, they grew faster than the likes of Cloudera, which have a majority of data on-prem. There were companies which are growing very fast in the cloud, but not profitable. That's another thing. Cloudera is a very profitable, highly profitable company, while some of the biggest competitors are loss making companies in the cloud. They are cloud competitors. The trend is shifting now, and with that shift we are finding more and more a partnership strategy. The way we are seeing the evolution of partner strategy is key to our growth, is key to our absolute. Cloudera will be growing with the partners. That's first and foremost. Our new CEO, Charles Sainsbury, is very pro partner. He's always kind of working or always thinking of how company can grow with the partners and how we can bring in more partners to anything we do. So other trend, I will talk about some other trends which are like how the market is shifting more for AI. Bring AI to data. Don't take data to AI, and I will talk about that. That's a very interesting trend, and that's shifting our partner priorities as well.
That's amazing. So, can you talk a little bit about, from an alliance perspective,
Uh-huh.
the role that you're playing? Who are the alliance partners today for Cloudera?
So Cloudera has a very rich ecosystem of partners. So we have all the GSI partners, you name it, the top five, or so top five are all our GSI partners. But with that, we have some many regional partners as well. Cloudera, as you know, is a global company. Almost, I think, over 100 countries or so we are operating in right now, and a pretty strong presence even in EMEA and APAC and Japan. Everywhere we had a very, very strong presence. So in many of these countries, we are working with the regional SI partners, those regional partners. In some countries, we do have two-tier model as well, where we have to go through the distribution partner and then the other reseller type partners. But then, other than the services partners, we have many good strategic partnerships with the likes of IBM or Dell or these kind of big, massive IHV partnerships. And of course, NVIDIA is a very strategic partner for us. NVIDIA, they have their GTC going on this week in San Jose, and we have a big presence there, big sponsorship there. Majority of good amount of our team is already there meeting customers and joint partners. So with Nvidia, very strategic partnership. So is with AMD and Intel. We do have partnerships with those as well. Then we have a different ecosystem of partners of ISVs, those software vendors, and this is very interesting right now. We have some traditional ISV partners which are still there, and the likes of Oracle and Microsoft or other Salesforce. But then the growing trend of with the AI focus on AI, there are so many of new and fast growing AI partners. They want to work with Cloudera because one thing is very simple, which is AI runs on data. There is no AI without data, and that's where the value of Cloudera comes in. Cloudera has over 25 exabytes of data. That's almost to the level of hyperscalers like AWS and others. It's the most data compared to any other company. It's like 25 million gigabytes of data. That's a majority. That's a huge chunk of pile of data, and that's data is gold right now in this age of AI. That's where we are.
And how do you engage with these alliance partners? What's your typical, no, I mean, are they pretty much, it's a stable ecosystem of alliances, or on the AI side, ISVs, you see a whole bunch of new partners that are joining? So therefore, you're recruiting, onboarding. Kind of talk to us a little bit from an operations perspective. How do you manage the existing group of partners, the large ones that you mentioned, and then how do you bring on these new set of partners, alliance
Yeah,
side?
yeah. Sure. I mean, some of the partners and the one more segment of partners which I didn't mention was the hyperscalers. So we have a very strategic partnership with AWS, with Azure, and with GCP as well. And these partners, the market is traditionally growing 20-30%, and we are growing double of that with these that sort of partnership. And within that partnership, sometimes we see friends of friends, friends of friend. So friends of a friend kind of strategy is where with AWS we have a very strategic partnership. But now there are so many other partners which where like the services partner, the likes of Slalom, which are very strategic to to AWS, but they are serving our customers very well, or which are on AWS. The same thing on the IHV side. Some of you talked about some of the existing partnerships which are we are revitalizing, like Dell, for example. One of the partnerships very close to us, very strategic kind of partnership. And we see such a huge potential of growth with Dell right now. Dell AI Factory with NVIDIA, those are two, and as I said, NVIDIA is a very strategic partner for us. Together with three of them, it becomes such a powerful combination because now you have data, you have hardware to manage that data, and you have the processing power to manage that data, which is the GPUs from NVIDIA. So those kind of things are coming together, and it becomes such a powerful combination for us. But now you talk about the emerging partners, the new partners, and how we are kind of doing some little bit of qualification process before letting them join our partner ecosystem. But we have new partners coming in all the time. The likes of, for example, True AI, one example, amazing partner, very close partnership now. They only came like few months ago and became within no time. It's kind of they have agentic AI. They build AI agents, and one of the fastest growing companies out there. And this is just our customer ecosystem. Many of them they refer to. I mean, that's just how they came in. We got the reference through our customers, and then we liked their solution. We kind of built this kind of strong integration with them, and so many customers which are using True AI together with Cloudera.
That's quite amazing. So let's talk a little bit about kind of maybe kind of going forward, the solution stack that you're seeing from an enterprise perspective. What are the tractions you see that people are, trying to figure out? Because a lot of these data sit in silos, right?
Yeah,
So from, Cloudera value proposition perspective, bringing them together, and then as you said, bring AI to your data. Like talk a little bit about that composition of what's happening now and
yeah,
maybe 12 to 24 months horizon, where it's going. I think that'll be great.
yeah. No, that's a very exciting topic. So what happened was Gen AI is fairly new, like a couple of years back, or even last year, when many companies they started their AI initiatives. It's very easy to start any AI initiative in the cloud, in the public cloud environment. And many companies they started their initiatives in the public cloud environments, but they didn't realize the cost spirals. Costs go up and up, and after like few months or many of them coming up to a year, they didn't see any ROI coming from those in running those Gen AI initiatives in public cloud. So at that time, many of those leaders they started re-evaluating. You must have seen some CIO surveys which show that 83% of the companies bringing some workloads back or thinking of bringing some workloads back to on-prem. And in fact, that's what I was talking to one of the GSI partner yesterday. They said right now their fastest growing segment is the data center segment, where they are bringing so many workloads back from public cloud to on-prem, and they are running those Gen AI solutions. There's a demand for Gen AI solutions, and that's where Cloudera's unique advantage comes in. While some of our like leading players, and no disrespect for like Databricks or Snowflake, which are amazing solutions in public cloud, but they cannot go to on-prem. We are the only game in town when it comes to all the way from edge computing to on-prem to all the way to the cloud. We are the true hybrid, only true hybrid player in the market out there. And that's giving us such a fast growth rate with many of these customers who are looking to show ROI of their Gen AI solutions or Gen AI initiatives they are putting in place. We can show the ROI to a level where Dell, with working together closely with Dell, some of their public figures, and it's a publicly available figure that they on-prem Gen AI initiatives can save up to 75% for compared to public cloud. So those savings are amazing, and then there are many data security reasons as well. Many companies don't prefer, or especially the banks and financial institutions, they don't like their data to go from on-prem to cloud just for analytics and stuff like and Gen AI solutions. So that's where Cloudera comes in, a very unique value proposition. We can manage data on-prem and we can manage all the way to cloud. Only company out there of that scale.
What sort of applications are you seeing that are gaining sort of tractions, if you, without getting anything confidential, but sector? Do you see traction in healthcare? Do you see traction in banking? Do you see
Yeah,
traction in horizontal applications like customer success? Like,
yeah.
where are you seeing traction where these enterprise applications are getting deployed?
Yeah, no, it's very very interesting topic. So we are working on when it comes to financial services. They are probably ahead of the curve in many ways. They are because they are seeing the greater value and also the return on investment on all these initiatives. So financial services, I would say it starts with, in my own opinion, financial services, then telecoms, then healthcare. There are so many applications, but then at the same time, there are some restrictions also. So you have to be very careful how you manage data in healthcare. Healthcare is great, and then we are seeing retail, manufacturing everywhere. There are the growth is there, and AI initiatives are not slowing down, even though companies are cutting down on certain areas. In fact, recently we started some AI initiatives on the federal side. Very interesting with what's going on with Mr. Musk cutting down on federal side funding and so many job losses and stuff. But one area which Mr. Musk is not cutting down, that's AI and automation. So he wants to do more automation. Being a technologist himself, he sees the value of technology in automation and making the federal government more efficient. His whole thing is about efficiency. And that's where Gen AI, he's not cutting down on any of the Gen AI initiatives and kind of just greater focus on return on investment and stuff. And that's where companies like Cloudera, which are very strong in federal side, Dell Federal, for example, that's one of the partners we have, very strong partners we have. And they are seeing great momentum building, even despite all the cuts and doom and gloom.
So let's talk a little bit about these new applications, right? Whether it's finance or banking or federal
Uh-huh.
applications, right? What is the process like? Are companies going through POCs, single site, multiple site? How many typical partners? And going back to your, point about having seven different partners being involved, how do you orchestrate? Because
Yes.
things are moving fast, people are deciding whether to have budget or not. Like, how are you working with the partners, alliance partners, in that way?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great question. So I give one example of, like, for example, partnerships like Dell, very strategic partnership for us, very very close partnership for us, and number of joint customers which are, we have with Dell, which are running Cloudera on Dell hardware, for example, when it comes to on-prem. So great strategic partnership. And now Dell is going further. They have the edge. Their focus is on edge computing. So many of, if you look at Dell today, the new breed of all the laptops and computers they are coming, they have AI applications built in. They are AI enabled at that place. I was very impressed. I was in EBC a couple of weeks ago, and they displayed some of their new range of laptops or edge devices. Just unbelievably impressive. So that's where the AI is going, and that's where I was coming with, take AI to data, don't take data to AI. And that's a very strong way of thinking process. How, and that's edge computing market, for example. It's a fast growing. It's like 36 or 37% growth rate expected in next 6 years. That's where these hyperscalers, that's where some of these big tech partners are going. $100 billion company like Dell investing heavily in that area, and that's where they see the value of data management platform, going working with them alongside a very strategic partnership, showing the value all the way from edge to cloud.
So let's double click on these two trends, right? These are big ones that you talked about. One is, private public cloud moving into private deployments
Uh-huh.
because cost of compute is cheaper, compliance issues are much more manageable,
Yeah.
right? So that's a generic trend, and AI is kind of related to data is speeding up. And second, let's talk about edge computing, which is also again compliance and compute costs. So can you talk about one or two specific applications tied to those? Maybe in one application you see both of those trends or two separate applications.
So without revealing the customer name, one typical customer who started their AI Gen AI journey on public cloud, one of the public cloud leaders, without mentioning the name. So when they started their experimentation, initially great results, but after about three quarters of implementation of those Gen AI initiatives there, they saw the increasing number of use cases. But with those increasing number of use cases went increasing number of costs. The cost, when they kind of analyzed the cost after 9 months, it was a shocker. It was pretty high compared to what they were expecting, or the TCO was not there. The ROI was very, very low. So at that point, they started. They are an existing Cloudera customers, so they kind of looked at the options and how they can move some of the workloads on-prem and kind of manage it more like optimized way. And that really immediately changed the whole thing. And when they moved some of the workloads back on-prem, kept some of the workloads in public cloud, Cloudera being the hybrid platform, managed kind of very efficiently on both sides. The ROI went up big time, and of course the total cost of ownership drops. But when you have many workloads in your data center running on-prem, and those kind of expansion scenarios, you can kind of run very efficiently on both sides, optimize the play. There are some use cases they still need that kind of cloud deployment, but then there are many use cases because depending on your latency requirements, they can easily run on-prem, and they can be as efficient as the cloud one without the cost. So cost savings were huge in this case, and yeah, I'm a very, very happy customer out there.
That's amazing. And how is it playing out in sort of edge computing wise? Like when it comes to edge and AI moving to edge, are
Yeah,
you seeing more LLMs or more LQMs? Like what type of models are moving into more edge computing?
right. Yeah. So this is, by the way, very another interesting topic. LLMs were there. That's how the whole concept started. But now we are seeing more and more trend of these small language models as efficient, or rather more efficient than the large language models in many cases. And we just customers don't need large language models all the time. Many cases they are very happy with running small language models, and many of them they are running on CPUs. I mean, we have one customer running those small language models on AMD EPYC CPUs, and it can be as efficient as you can think. They just don't need, or they don't see the need of GPUs. In this case, the CPUs were almost one third the cost of GPUs. So the cost advantage was just amazing. And the kind of use cases they were running with small language models, they were very happy with the results they got.
And deployment wise, also, you have a lot more edge devices that you have, cloud devices. But going back to sort of the computational side, when it comes to edge deployment, are you seeing a trend by vertical? Are there alliance partners that you see that they're training their model,
Yeah.
small models on sort of large models, and they're building inference engines? And are they going vertical specific, like healthcare, banking, ads? Or have you started to see that trend, or is it too early?
No, we are starting to see that trend. In fact, again, without naming the big GSI partner, one of the very, very large GSI, one of the leaders, they have their own edge computing practice. When I talk to those people, or when we talk to those people in edge computing practice, that's the kind of trends they are. They are going verticalized. They are seeing such a huge growth in all these areas. Some of these retail customers, they have their, all the edge devices they have. They are seeing great value of harnessing their data at that point, rather than bringing all the data to cloud and then analyze and bring it back. So that's where this take AI to data rather than taking data to AI. And they are seeing great value from even from small language models to a point where some of these language models are way more efficient than the large language models.
And we saw that. I mean, I think we saw that whole announcement in DeepSeek, and there has been a lot of announcements over the last few months around small language model evolving. I want to go a little bit on governance and compliance side.
Yeah,
And because the private cloud option that Cloudera has is quite appealing, especially those companies that are worried about, data leaving prem.
yeah.
Maybe it's still in the cloud, but it's their cloud. When you talk to a little bit about the sort of the geopolitical or geo data issue, are you seeing POCs cross border, like between US and Europe or Asia Pacific, or are you seeing more geo contained POC and deployment?
Yeah, oh, very, very interesting question. So to start with, data governance and data lineage and all this area is becoming more and more important, especially with AI. things can go anywhere, and data, more use of data and all that. Data governance is becoming the single most important area. Cloudera recently, I don't know if you saw the announcement, a couple of months ago, no, a few months now, 6 months, I think, we acquired a company called Octopi. Octopi is a leader in data lineage and data governance. So, data lineage, it tracks all the data from which sources the data is coming from, where the changes were made, how's the quality of data, and how it's going through different systems and where it's ending. So it tracks all the way from end to end. That's the data lineage system. So that becomes very, very valuable for any data team implementing these Gen AI solutions, because they really have to track the data. And as I said, trusted AI needs trusted data. It's a garbage in, garbage out kind of analogy, and that's the thing about AI. Not everything is accurate. You have seen the hallucination and all the challenges we have. So here for Gen AI, especially in particular, what we are seeing is the more need for data governance and data things. And most of the governments now, they are kind of working on, they are starting their own frameworks around data, how they can implement that and how they can contain the AI. AI can be very dangerous and disruptive. And in order to keep this within checks, I mean, EU in particular, they have their own rules and regulations, and then you go many countries, be it India or be it Singapore or other places, they have their own. So we are still seeing many cross-border POCs, and majority of our customers, if you look at the global 2,000 customers, majority of them are still Cloudera customers. So that's traditionally been applied to all the big banks. And if you look at all the big banks here, they are all using our platform in some shape or form. In some cases, some business unit. In some cases, pretty much throughout. So there is a more and more kind of, we are still seeing a lot of cross regions kind of POCs and cross kind of implementations, but still it's a thing where every region is trying to impose their own limitations or their own restrictions.
Yeah, in enterprise, I don't know how many people kind of track this, but some of us, like you and I, who have been in this space and seen the evolution of databases, very few people talk about that you may actually have a megabyte or kilobyte or whatever, gigabyte of customer data, but most of the data that enterprise end up generating is through log and change management and analytics. So
Yeah.
there's 10, 20, 30 times of generation. Once you have primary set of data, you create all these secondary sort of tracking, logging, monitoring, analyzing. Therefore, you're creating custom insights. A customer record may be more in the public domain, but
Yeah.
the intelligence that you create is very, very proprietary in nature, so you
Mhm.
don't want this to leave.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about from data security in your line sector.
Mhm.
There was a big announcement today or in the news that Google Cloud and Wiz and etc. So where do you see, other than just from compliance tracking and management, from a data security and AI perspective,
Yeah.
how is your ecosystem sort of addressing that? What are you hearing from your alliance partner when it comes to actually security?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great question. Some of these partnerships are evolving, which are never thought of before. For example, Cloudera and Snowflake are partners. Who would have thought? Many people think of, when they think of three main competitors or three main data management platforms, they think of Databricks, Snowflake, and Cloudera. But Cloudera and Snowflake are partners because Snowflake goes in the cloud. We can manage. We are a hybrid platform. So many customers, they prefer to keep their data on prem, and they some of their data goes in the public cloud. So they can, with having this kind of optimization play, they can leverage both platforms, and they can have a very cost effective and greater focus on ROI.
So, Vineet, if you look forward next kind of 12 to 18 months, right, are there 2 to 3 areas that you think the trends are going to accelerate when it comes to bringing AI to data?
Yes, I mean, I'm very bullish on edge computing. That's one thing. Edge to AI kind of play. I think that area is going to explode with all the new laptops or new edge devices I see, which are AI enabled, and greater demand of data by users as well everywhere. The likes of retailers, they are They have edge devices everywhere. So it's a greater need of that's one area which is growing very fast. Then of course agentic AI, very exciting solutions out there, and they can really be so powerful and effective for a variety of tasks. So I see agentic AI non-stopping is going to grow very, very fast in coming months and maybe years.
So when you take those two, right, those are two big trends, right? Edge AI, like computing moving to at the edge level from an AI perspective,
Yeah.
and agentic AI. From a deployment wise, do you see single function, like whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, those two things coming together, or do you see more cross functional marketing, sales, customer success, logistics? Like, where do you think the deployment attractions are gaining?
So partnerships also go inside the organizations, and I see more and more collaboration. Unless the more collaborations come, then only you can implement these things. Because now it's a very different scenario what it used to be early, like when we started our career. So it's a very different model, more collaborative approach for any of these deployments, and the same thing on the partner ecosystem side. No company can do it alone now. They have to have partners, and they have to have partners, not only partners, but they have to have some good process in place. It's not only you can have a partner, but you have to have good process in place and some systems which is managing those partners and doing the right communication at the right time and giving them all the right instructions at the right time. That's where Zinfi comes in. Zinfi is a great way of manage these partners for these, be it edge computing or any of these new trends. There will be more need for systems like Zinfi going forward. I'm very, very bullish on that's really the key trend, I would say.
Great. Well, Vineet, we've come to the end of the hour. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you in Austin. I think we're going to have an amazing conversation on the panel that you're part of. So look forward to seeing you there. But thank you again for being here today.
Likewise. Thank you, Sugata. It's a pleasure to be part of your podcast journey, and good luck.
Thank you.